Hey, and welcome back to the Realm of History. Today, I've got a special edition for you on 6 key strategies for improving reading comprehension. As a teacher, I think this is one of my biggest struggles. I watch students, I give them reading assignments, and sometimes we'll try to assess what they've read, and they really draw blanks. They'll say, Hey, I did the reading, but I don't really remember, I don't really understand. So I want to go through some develop strategies, some techniques that students can use, especially in the topic of history, to improve their reading comprehension. If you're a student that struggles with reading comprehension, you are not alone. I've taught many students that struggle in this department. Fortunately, there really are many reading strategies that can be helpful for you. Now, listen, these don't work for everyone, and the results may vary for you, but I will go through a list of techniques that you can attempt to make yourself a better reader. Strategy number 1 is to read with a purpose. Why are you reading this assignment? There's definitely a difference between reading for pleasure and reading to learn, which is most of what you do with textbook reading for a class. The first strategy is really to set a goal. Expect some type of an outcome. Be prepared to explain what you've read to someone else. Next, I'd like to talk about a strategy that happens before you even start the assignment of reading. The second key strategy is to preview the selection. What you need to do here is understand that most textbooks are divided up into chapters and sections. One thing that you can do to preview the selection that you're about to read is take a look at the title, take a look at the pictures, the headings, the key ideas, the charts, the graphs. These are ways that you can become acquainted with the information that you're about to take in. Another key factor in this is to take what you've learned from the previewing and try to assess some prior knowledge that you have. Connect what you're about to read to something that you already know. Prior knowledge for students as a topic is something that's been proven in numerous studies to truly improve student learning. So here we have an example of a world history textbook, and this is the front page of a chapter. So if I were to preview this selection, I would read the title, European Renaissance and Reformation. So it gives me an idea of what it's going to be about. It gives me some time span of dates that I can understand about when this took place. The book here even gives me some clues. What are the main ideas that I should be focused on? Those are all great pieces of information that can help me gather an understanding. Oh, there's a timeline. This is something that tells me what's going on in Europe, what's going on in the world. There's a map. Checking out this map will give me a little bit of perspective on where I'm going to be learning about. And then when you get into the section, you can see that it gives us a little bit of clues on what we're going to be learning about with some artwork, letting us know that the Renaissance may have been about art. And then when we get to the section 1 of this chapter is Italy, the birthplace of the Renaissance. Most textbooks give you a lot of clues. Hey, here's the main idea. Here's why it matters now. Here are some key terms and names that you're going to be reading and learning about as you go through the assignment. Here's another textbook that does a similar previewing. You have Unit 3, Land-Based Empires. This is an AP selection right here. It tells you, hey, how to understand what's going on, some of the key factors that you're going to be taking a look at, so on and so forth. You can see that these books also give you a lot of detail as to what type of questions you can expect from this different type of reading. Once again, we see there is a title for this selection. There even is an essential question that tells us, hey, what's the most important thing that we really need to gather from this selection of reading? Here's an example of a bolded term, gunpowder empires. When a textbook bolds or highlights or underlines something, those are the things that you really want to clue into as you read. Next is going to talk about strategy number 3, backward engineering. That means starting from the back end of the reading and seeing what's important at the end of the selection. Here, what you want to do is you want to go to the final page of the assigned reading. And you want to ask yourself, hey, is there a chapter or section assessment with questions? Study these questions to give yourself a purpose and some guidance for your reading assignment. Most books will tell you what is most important in these type of questions for the assessment. Focus on as you read, checking out the bolded or highlighted words that the book makes note of, as these are obviously important factors. Once again, as an example of backward engineering, if I were to employ this strategy, I would go to the last page of the reading. Here's that same section of chapter 17 that we took a look at earlier. It talks about, hey, can you define these key terms and names? So as you read, you want to make sure that you have an understanding of what those things mean. It tells you how to take some brief outline notes. Also, it has some main idea questions. If you can answer these questions as you read, if you can focus in on where are the answers to these questions as you read, then you're going to get the basic idea, the big picture idea, the essential ideas of what you should be gathering from this reading assignment. The next techniques will focus on what you can do while you read to help improve comprehension. Strategy number 4 is called making connections. What you want to do is you want to try to connect the material that you're reading about in some way, shape, or form to your life. If it doesn't have a personal connection for you, apply it in some way to the world that's around you. Does it relate to current events that may be on the news, or does it relate to something that you've learned in another class? Make the assignment meaningful to you in some way. That's a great way to remember the material that you have learned. Another strategy to be employed while you're reading is called being an active reader. Active reading strategies are really important to reading comprehension. Now, to be an active reader, I want to teach you about the paragraph check. How many times do we read and we just read the words, we glance over the words, but we're really not understanding or remembering anything that we read? This means our mind is not being here now. It's focused on something outside the task at hand. The paragraph check will help you to avoid having to reread several pages. Here's what I want you to do. As you read each paragraph, at the end of each paragraph, ask yourself this question: do I understand the sentences that I just read? If you can say yes, then you should feel free to move forward. But if the answer to that question is no, then you need to go back and reread that paragraph. This is going to save you time in the long run, because hopefully you'll start to train yourself that you need to focus on the words and understand them as you go. If you find that you are saying yes, you're in really good shape. This will prevent you from getting 2, 3, 4 pages into the reading and have to go back and read the whole thing over. So utilize the paragraph check as an initial active reading strategy. Next, one of the great ways to remember what you read, to comprehend the material, is to write an outline note of the most important material. This is going to be something that you really need to develop as a skill set for not only the high school level, but also the college level. Outlining, getting the basic details down in a notes or an annotated fashion will really help you comprehend the material. Now, while you're doing this, you want to avoid rewriting every single word or highlighting every sentence in the text. You want to focus on defining the key terms, the key figures, and other very important topics, especially those that relate to those questions that you studied in your pre-reading active strategy. Finally, I would encourage you to deploy an after reading strategy, which is strategy number 6, summarize what you have read. To do this successfully, you want to ask yourself the question: can you summarize what the reading selection was trying to teach you? Can you answer those questions at the end of the chapter or section that we talked about earlier? Would you be able to have a brief conversation with a friend or classmate that had the same assignment and feel confident in what you were talking about with them? These are some of the things that you would need to do to prove that you understood the main ideas from this reading selection or assignment. In conclusion, reading comprehension can be hard work. If you do not follow any of these procedures, if you lose your focus, if you get lazy at the task at hand, this can lead to problems with your understanding of the reading. If you really want to get good grades and good scores and do very well in class, there are some steps that you can take, the ones that we talked about today. Simply completing the reading is often not enough. Like all good things, you have to put in the work to be successful.